All right, we are at GDC 2019 in sunny San Francisco. We are here with FatShark to talk a little bit about the next Vermintide 2 expansion, Winds of Magic.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about, I know that you've released DLC in the past, but this seems to be like a major expansion focusing on the endgame content.
Yeah,
Tell us a little bit about how you define endgame content for Vermintide 2.
Well, I think there's multiple parts to that. I mean, we're definitely looking at an expansion because this is bigger than a normal like DLC for us. And when we're looking at that end game content loop that we have in the game currently, we want to make that, from our end, a much more controlled experience where we have a tighter grip on the difficulties and the challenges that we present to the players, but also provide something that towards the players is a defined experience where you have a defined challenge that you as a team can kit yourself out, get your kind of tactics down, and then complete that in a measurable completion rate and a score kind of thing. So with the Winds of Magic, what we want to do is have these weaves that are a bit shorter perhaps than normal levels, but a bit way more predictable. So you know what you're facing, you know what enemies and what challenges and what mutators are on there and what the objectives are, and just try to perfect those runs, right?
So tell us about, so the one thing we want to know more about is obviously the Beastmen.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit more about the new enemies coming to Vermintide 2.
Well, I mean, it's always tricky when we're adding new enemies because everyone at the studio has their own favorites. Like, I'm an orc player, but I didn't get my way now. There's Beastmen coming anyway. So adding a complete new layer of enemies, a new faction, that incorporates a lot of different things. You don't have like the roaming population of who's going to be standing around in the level and the kind of horde layer of everything. That's the meat and potatoes of the gameplay. And then you have those that stand out, the elites and the bosses and the specials. So what we're doing currently is try to introduce a roaming layer of the gores and the bestigores and the ungores. That's like the character of the Beastman coming at you, right? But adding a few tweaks here and there just to pop that gameplay in different directions. So we're adding a bit more range, we're adding a bit more skirmishing, a bit more ranged enemies with archers for the ungores, and then having those bestigores and the minotaur that just charge at you. So you get that flow of players have to push towards the new enemies, but they will also be pushed back by the bigger guys. And that plays really well.
So as for the actual 8 Winds of Magic,
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about how that impacts the maps that you already have created.
Well, I mean, when we do things, we try to kind of take both ends of the player spectrum into account. Like, we have the new players that come in and they looking for an experience, they want something that's quite straightforward, but it's a cool thing to kind of run through. And then on the other hand, you have the really experienced players, the masters, the guys who have completed all the challenges and know how to play the game to the core. So the Winds of Magic thing, with the weaves of the winds specifically, we want to cater to both of those. So it's both like an art layer and a presentation layer of taking subsets of existing levels and just making those into these magical experiences where everything is steeped in one of the winds and one of the colors. Everything is on fire, or if it's the death wind, everything is gloomy and death haunts everywhere kind of thing. But also on the mutator layer, every wind adds a unique mutator or gameplay changer to the weave that you're playing that completely kind of changes the way you have to approach different things at its core. And hopefully that will kind of inspire teams to just look at, okay, we have this objective and this topology, this level, combined with this wind and the mutator it brings, will require us to change our tactics, our loadout, our talents, our traits, our loot kind of setup, and then go at it.
So would you say that this is more of a challenge mode for the existing players?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one of the things we talked about when looking at expansion content. Like, we can keep on expanding with the kind of more narratively driven levels that play out a story, have a lot of content in it, or we can try to cater towards something that is more challenge focused, that is more gameplay focused. It has less like exposition and narrative in it possibly, but it's more about the experience and specifically about mastery of gameplay.
So I know there's new weapons coming.
Oh, yeah.
So how will that change the existing, I guess, challenge of the game? Will it alter the game in a big way?
I don't think it will have a massive impact, but I always say that, and then everything is completely changed because people find ways that we didn't foresee them, like utilizing the tools that we give them, and that's fine. That's part of kind of the shared authorship between the community and us as games creator. But I mean, we are trying to introduce things more across the classes. So we give pole arms, we give spears to Kruber, we give a bill hook to Saltspire that introduces some new, like, small neat features of you actually being able to push back a horde and then pull out a single elite or something that you really want to have dead. Krillin gets a shield, so that's
finally
that's gonna change her, or have the possibility of changing her role into more of a bulwark, like poke people in the face behind the shield instead of just dodging all the time. And then, I mean, Sienna gets her Flaming Flare, which is all about violence and awesomeness and exploding people with fiery, horrible doom. And the throwing axis is, for me, the thing that I think is most interesting. I don't think it's going to be meta-changing, but it's introducing a first prototype kind of what throwing weapons might be in the Vermintide universe and figuring that out and see where we can go with that.
So is there anything else that's new that you want to touch on?
Well, I mean, given the work we're doing with the weaves, it's not only just repainting levels or introducing some set mutators. We are doing an overhaul of the difficulty and timings of pretty much everything in the core combat loop in order to provide that challenge, because there are milliseconds to spare in the attack animations, in the stagger animations, and in the kind of blocked animations of the enemies. And just tightening that loop up to provide those players who really want to achieve mastery a way to actually show that off. That will run through the entire game across all difficulties, and we will be tuning things to be just a bit more tightly controlled.
So would you say that this mode that's coming is more objective-based than it has been before?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we're going for more clear challenges with it, and then hoping that the players will, with the combination of enemy spawns, with the objective that's going to be quite clear, the mutator that is going to be clear, but all that combined will create a unique kind of challenge and chaotic environment for the player to try to survive and master.
So when does the DLC come out? Expansion?
Oh, well, I mean, when it's done, I would say, but we're aiming for summer.
Summer?
Yeah.
This year?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to add?
Well, thanks for playing and thanks for showing interest. It's awesome to have people actually kind of care about the same things we're caring about.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, cool.